This is my little Zoom tutorial time. So for those of us who spent the past couple of years trying to figure out how to connect with people via that little green dot at the top of a screen, Zoom, that reactions tab, a couple things you can do. You can raise your hand. In fact, if everybody wants to do that real quick, you'll watch what happens in the gallery view. Let me get a couple of you to click reactions, raise hand. And it just moves you around the screen, lines you up in order of who raised their hand. Crazy thing about raise hand, you have to lower hand. Otherwise, it just stays there the whole time. So go back to reactions, lower hand. That's one way when you're in your working groups this afternoon, if you want to line up the order in which people are talking or sharing, that's a pretty cool thing that you can do. I'm looking around seeing your names. If you want to change your name, super easy. You can hover over your video. You click the little three dots up in the top right-hand corner, and then you can go down to rename. You'll notice that the FFIT team, we all put a little asterisk before our names. That just lets us know who we are, but it also lets you know if you need to send a message to someone on the team, pretty easy to find out who they are. And then one other little one is when I share a screen, when someone shares a screen, you can resize how many people you see and how much of the slide that you watch. I know the Air Force and the Space Force, they love their slides, but sometimes I want to see your faces. So I will often minimize the slide because they're going to read it anyway. Shh, I didn't say that out loud, but I do want to watch the people that I'm working with. All right, for those of you just joining us, if you don't mind doing a quick comm check with your videos, just to make sure that when we invite you to turn your videos on, those work. I know some of you are in places that are secret and you can't, or you've got a kiddo nearby. I say bring your child to work day every day of Zoom. All right, I'm going to check back in with the FIT team there at Andrews to see how we're doing, how we're tracking on time. Strike, will you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs to the side on if you think we are good to go or if I keep needing to stall? All righty, here we go. Hey folks, will you open the chat box in Zoom? There's a few of you who were here yesterday, and there are some folks joining us for the first time today. If you were to put in 10, 15 words what yesterday was like, I'd love for a few of you to play around with that. 15 words, could be a sentence, could be a haiku, could be a short poem. But if you don't mind just dropping into that chat box, if you were to put yesterday into a chat post in Zoom, how would you do that? Of course, if you add one, as soon as you click enter, you can read through what your colleagues are posting. For those of you just joining us today, how about if you put your day into 10 or 15 words yesterday? We didn't get to be with you, but you did some stuff. You were some stuff. While you're in the chat box, one of the things that we've allowed is if you click those three dots off to the side of the smiley face in chat, you can actually save the chat as a text file. So this is something that we do often in our classes where we're communicating not just visually or verbally, but also via typing. And you can save that chat, pull it into a text file, and move over.
Oh yeah, time for some action. Good. Live. All right, team. Hey, aloha again. Thank you all for joining us today. As we wrapped up from yesterday, what a lot of powerful testimony we received yesterday in reference to some of the things that our folks have been dealing with out there when it comes to resiliency, mental wellness, and mental health. As we saw that there is a need for FIT and the things that we're doing being action-oriented to get after some of these things that we heard yesterday. Today, a little bit of a change of pace. We're going to kick off today with a panel, and we have some all-stars and some rock stars in here with us today. So we are joined with retired Major General James Johnson in the audience. Round of applause. We also have our boss. We got SimSav, Chief Bass. And we have this rock star here to my right, Kristen Christie, coming in to share some love with us today. We have Mark Clements over here, one of our all-star FIT members. And then my co-host for this, we have Kira. All right, team. So real quick, some things we're going to do today. Really, we're going to have some folks. They're going to kick some ideas of some things that they've been working on to us. And what we'll do from there is kind of provide some feedback. Again, this is not something we're looking for any form of approval or anything like that. Really want to share some feedback, give a little bit of perspective, and maybe some things maybe they haven't considered, or maybe they got something that's lined up that's solid and ready to go. So really, this kind of be a feedback session on some of the things they've been working on. But before we get into that, we're going to talk, me and my two colleagues will come up and we'll talk about the process of how do you come from an idea to get it to the point to where it's something that's ready to be action and push forward. So we're going to kind of give y'all a quick rundown of what that looks like. Jim, can you hook us up?
Good morning, Chief. So everyone here is been asking about FIT, and what we're doing here is trying to find out how we can take the solutions and ideas that we get, take them from ideation to action. So what we had to do is figure out how do we actually do that. So my two colleagues and myself, we sat down and we created this process that you see here. So this process is how we actually go about creating those solutions that will become part of what you see today. So we have 3 different lines of effort that we all focus on. I focus on the enabling capabilities, which is on the left side of the team. The middle part is the ideation and the initiative team section that Chief Ricks focuses on. And then Strike focuses on the last piece, which is taking everything from the initiative incubator into that pipeline, which is part of the solution that we're doing today. So what I would like to do is focus everyone on the left side of the slide. So our enabling capability, first one is the recruiting and onboarding. So right now within our Slack channel, we have roughly 300 members of FIT. And in order to get those, energized individuals to be a part of the team, we had to put them through a process to find out what they can do, their time commitments and things like that. So we develop a process by which we can, onboard them and have them be a part of it, throughout the process as much as they can, because we all have regular lives as well. So we receive those submissions, and then, we just take them through, and we also maintain this roster because sometimes the demand signal changes and sometimes we need more people for different things. So that allows us to have a good sight picture of our human capital, how we actually go through FIT. So then we move down to our crosstalk team. So crosstalk, which I also lead, crosstalk is designed to make sure that we are lockstep with ongoing initiatives. So what we do is we talk to other BOGs, Department of the Air Force institutions, joint forces. We talk to our private sector partners, academia, because what we want to do is determine what are those lessons learned? What are the things that work? What work at one base that we can actually scale across, the entire Department of the Air Force? So therefore, so we don't have to start from zero. We actually just partner with other individuals. Now, the good thing about the crosstalk team is if you see the lines, you see where it feeds into the FIT process. So we can actually push information into the FIT construct, but also pull them out. So for instance, if someone's working an initiative and they want to have a certain SME or a certain expert to talk about certain things, the crosstalk team can actually, instead of taking that team off task, can reach out proactively and pull those in and pull them into FIT. So that's what crosstalk does. So then we have our outreach team. And right now we have a team of pipe hitters right now. And I'm learning so much about social media and the power of social media right now. And what we do is we set up our platforms, we set up all the different portals. And essentially what we want to do, and one of the initial charges that we have from FIT is that we want to reach out to airmen, guardian, and families where they are, take the message to them, but also get that feedback. So right now we're just in a few portals, but we continue to push that out. In addition to that, we have our things like our podcast, which you were a part of, and we have some other initiatives coming along in the future. And in addition to that, we have a full-on production team, graphics capabilities, and we also have individuals from staff PA. So our outreach team is legit. It's more than I could ever ask for. And then finally, we have our utilization and effectiveness team. So this is what I like to refer to lovingly as our hyper geeks. Like these are the guys and gals sitting there, data scientists, and they're just looking to measure something. They want to provide us some kind of quantifiable data that we can use for FIT. And so we use it for a whole host of things. And in addition to that, what we can also do is, like, if you're an initiative team, if you need some data or some research done, instead of you coming off a task and having to do it, you just parse it out to the utilization effectiveness team. They get it for us, and that allows us to move out. So that whole side of the slide is the enabling capabilities for FIT. And now I'm going to move over to the middle portion, the initiative, which Chief Riggs is going to focus on.
Appreciate it, sir. Cool. Hey, team, so the middle part, this is where we start really getting into the grind of rolling our sleeves back and putting the science behind it. So when you look up top, you see focus groups. These are groups that have already established and they're already getting after some things. What we're able to do is maybe help identify some of the barriers to stopping them from getting to where they could be completely successful with taking care of our people. So you see a good mixture of different groups on there, but what we look at is what's stopping them from getting to the point they're trying to get to take care of our folks. When you look down towards the bottom, those are the actual initiative teams. So these are things that we've been able to get vectored by SimStaff and SimSIP to look at and say, these are the initiatives that we think we need to really focus on and get after. Now, the science behind it is, we can't go say that, hey, at my base or at the 3 assignments I've been to, I've never seen this or it doesn't exist. We got to do our homework and put the science behind it. So, for example, with education and training, Mark is a part of that team as well. But what we do is we get them synced up with the Barnes Center and Air University so they can get a holistic look at what is actually being presented to our folks out there. Now let's take a look and see what we can potentially improve or add in what we don't have. The same thing goes with some of the other initiative teams you look on here. Is be able to peel that onion back, put the science behind it so we can figure out what's needed. So when we go back to SimStaff and SimSIP and say, hey, this is something we want to push forward to get approved, they got something that's tangible. It's got the science behind it that makes sense. We've done our homework. So when we do roll this thing out, it makes sense to everybody. And it's not just an assumption based off what we may think. So that's where all this goes into play. And when you look at the initiatives, really trying to identify things that we can do that can improve the force. Some of them may be easy wins. Some of these are enduring efforts. There are things that's going to continue to go on as long as we exist because we're dealing with people and needs and requirements will change. So it won't be like a one size fit all. Some of these things will be like a catalog. There'll be things that maybe within PACAV this may work, but when you go to AETC, they need something a little bit different. So here's where we're doing all the science and doing all the homework to get these things figured out before we transition and push it through the pipeline. And from there, I'm gonna kick it over to my teammate, Colonel Stevens.
Great, good morning. I'm going to do my best because this whole process has lost me my voice. So I'm going to use the last of it this morning to talk to you quickly. This last piece, I'd like to have you take a look at the right side of the slide. And first, I'm going to point out 2 elements that are unique to the FIT and that were really based on crosstalk from other barrier analysis working groups, some of the MAGCOM teams that have been getting after efforts like this, and some of their greatest challenges, and as well as meeting with many of our partners who are, kind of in our crosstalk area, but our A1Z, our medical partners, AETC, these folks who have really wanted to be involved in efforts like this, but often are chasing these volunteer teams and being joined into the effort way later in the process. So if you look on the top right of the screen, our SME advisory group is comprised of basically anyone who holds a position or perspective that is critical to our efforts, so we can bring them into that process earlier. So there are members of official formal Air Force organizations who are in these offices that don't have the bandwidth to get after these efforts, but are now in a position to advise our efforts so we can support them, as well as some industry and external partners who are just very passionate and have perspective to help guide our efforts and don't necessarily have the bandwidth or aren't properly positioned to be a volunteer, but are in a position to help advise us and be plugged in. And so they have a relationship where they'll receive those same updates that SimStaff and SimSIP are getting, and they can dive in and provide advisement in this stage where Chris is working with the initiative teams and the focus groups. but their real formal relationship starts here at the Initiative Incubator. I'll briefly mention our FIT coaches as well, which Kira here, we underestimate has shaped and formed this coaches bullpen with JW, who has been our host for this week's activities. They have really crafted this coaches bullpen based on feedback from folks who have worked on these initiative teams and said the one thing they were missing through all this red teaming and all this pitching to senior leaders was someone to guide and walk them through that process, and then help them take that feedback and craft it into something productive and help that feel productive and not feel defeated coming out of those processes, which many of us felt that was the one thing we were missing. And JW and Kira have really done a beautiful job to bring that together. And we've got volunteers, again, from AFWorks and from all of these other initiative teams, from the Women's Initiative team, who have just flooded our efforts to help us and to take on that coaching role, which has been phenomenal. What I want to bring your attention to is the yellow block, the Initiative Incubator, because what today is really a representation of the finale of our first month and our first cycle of that Initiative Incubator, which will repeat on a monthly cycle. We're going to reset in May and it'll start again in June. But that Initiative Incubator is a 1-month process where 82 initial initiatives submitted to FIT via SurveyMonkey link. They were all given the opportunity to pair with a coach at the beginning of that month and work with that coach to give a 5-minute pitch. We were the requirements were quite basic on this first round. It was 5-minute pitch and their choice of presentation format. And they were given some process and some methodology to kind of help work through and make sure they had an idea that they were turning into a more actionable initiative. Through that process, we held 3 red teaming sessions where members of our SME advisory group and additional coaches came in to give questions and to try to help them frame their pitch. And then the coaching teams worked with these teams as they narrowed to figure out which ones have an action-oriented initiative that is ready to develop an action plan. So what's important to point out here is today is not a selection or a decision on initiatives and efforts. It is just a reflection of those initiatives that have made it to this point in the process. They all started, we've got many meaningful initiatives that are going to take more time to get to this point, but we have some that are at the point where we do believe they're ready to develop an action plan. That action plan could be a month, it could be a year, depending on the complexity of the initiative. And once they come through today's process, we are really welcoming them into that initiative pipeline. And that's where we'll have our varsity level coaches, some of the folks with more experience, really work with them more regularly. SimSAF and SimSIF will get more regular updates on their milestones, and we will work and pour our resources into getting them to those milestones, getting them meetings with those offices and access to data to help inform their initiatives. So really that green area is where our attention is going to be focused, with a lot of interaction with that SME advisory group to make sure we're on track. And these coaches working very closely with those teams that have reached the milestone that we're seeing for the first time today. So that's a lot. That's kind of our structure. The big thing I mentioned with FIT all the time is that we are building this and engineering it as we fly it. And so as we move through, our goal is by the end of this year, we often get asked why we don't have a signed charter. And it's because our goal at the end of the year is to experiment and work through our process and not formalize it until we know it looks like we would like it to look after this year. And so we keep making changes. This looks different every month. This is a screenshot of our mural board where we are working on this as we go. And you can see these are our focus areas, but it'll change as we move forward. So we're excited to kick off this green portion as we go forward. What we're going to do before we offer it to you both for some opening remarks or any comments for the teams, we're actually going to pass it back to Jason Womack, because our event this week, yesterday, was really a different type of day. Today, as Chris mentioned, was about generating action and rolling our sleeves up and getting some work done. Yesterday was really about reflecting and engaging in some important conversations. So I'd like to, if we could put the spotlight on JW, I know he loves it, or go gallery. We're gonna let Dr. Womack go ahead and take us through a bit of a reflection on yesterday's activities.
Yeah, it's a spotlight on him. You can see it.
Good morning, friends. Big hearts out to you all. Give me a thumbs up if my audio is coming through your speakers okay. It was a rainy February morning. I was a 25-year-old high school history teacher, and I was in the principal's office with a student and his dad. And it was one of those parent, teacher, student, principal conferences. Some of you may be familiar with those conferences, maybe intimately familiar with those discussions. And through that process, I outlined to the parent and to my principal how the student was failing, wasn't doing homework, wasn't showing up to class, was acting up. Cover your camera if you've ever had an airman or guardian who was failing. And I remember very clearly at one point, the principal turned to the student and says, "Would you like to say anything?" And he was quiet. Anyone ever seen a 16-year-old boy try not to cry in front of adults? And then out of the blue, out of nowhere, fast as I could count on my finger, the father's hand raised in the air and landed squarely in the chest of my student. And the father said, "Talk to the man. He asked you a question." I was a 25-year-old high school history teacher who had grown up in an abusive household where my mom got hit and then I got hit. And then if there was any left, my brother and then my sister. I don't remember what happened next until I heard the words from the student come out. "The only time you pay attention to me is when I get in trouble." We are starving for connection. And yet we fear connecting. If anything stood up for me yesterday, it's that we are starving to be heard and to hear. Cover your camera, raise your hand. How many of you were surprised by what people shared out loud in a live environment amongst their peers, wearing uniforms, no less, rank showing clearly into the screen? How else do you describe this innate need after 2.5 years of hiding behind masks and with a video camera off? You understand that 22% of your United States Air Force and Space Force did not know an Air Force or Space Force without a mask until 5 weeks ago. Roughly 70,000 ascensions, and they showed up to their first duty station and they were told, "Put your mask on and you cannot see your commander's entire face." Most of us sent home, teleworking, video cameras off, starving for connection. There's 3 ways to change a life, friends. 3 things you can do. For those of you who are note takers, here's your first part of the day. The first thing that we can do for one another is to, I call it make awkward eye contact. Hey, in Zoom, will you all click the view button? I need you to see everybody. Click gallery. There in the FFIT Center, will you please change it to gallery view for me? Now here in gallery view, I have a challenge. Will you look around the screen and actually make eye contact with someone? The thing we've been longing for 2.5 years. I can't wait to be with people. It's okay to smile. They might be looking back at you. Now, if making awkward eye contact is too California for you, just write down the word notice. Who's ever walked by someone and not made eye contact, just simply kept moving about your day? Vice, who's ever walked by someone, noticed them and said, "How are you?" and then they lied to your face? Living the dream, another day in paradise. If I was any better, I'd be twins. I've heard them all. And then there's something that happens in our heart or in the back of our mind, that limbic system, that oldest part of the reptilian brain that can very quickly visually ascertain threat or safety. That's what eye contact does. Now, you can't just stare at someone. There's 3 things you need to do to change a life. The second one is we need to have a meaningful conversation. And a meaningful conversation, if anything proved itself yesterday, if anything has proved itself, Chief, since you and Chief Toberman stood up the FFIT, it's that meaningful conversations are being had accidentally. People are finding their tribes. Whether we're talking about spouse groups, single airmen and guardians, we're talking about gaming. People are finding the folks that they can have meaningful conversations with. And by the way, another way to say meaningful conversations is, I've been heard. We can't stop there. And this is why today is so important. After I've noticed, after I've shared, I have to manufacture a way to come back into your life. That's why this FFIT Symposium is the inaugural. The third thing to do to change a life is to follow up, comma, appropriately. Now, I put that appropriately in recently, in about the past 5 years, because I realized that in many instances, people were trying to fix problems in real time. Hey, cover your camera if, as someone has brought you a problem, you tried to fix it in real time. You shoulded on them. What you need to do on them. You called and gave them a resource. See, sometimes I can hold that recommendation, that mentoring, or that teaching, and then I find a way to infiltrate their inbox or their text message. Hey, those of you who have a phone handy, grab it. You in the room too. If your phone is handy, grab it. Everybody, let's do this thing. Come on now. Grab your phone. Go to your text messages. Okay, go to your text messages. Everybody, I want you to scroll to the last text message in that chain. All the way down. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Anybody got something from 2020? Say, hey, reach out, buddy check them, or buddy check them. Wait, you said the same thing twice. Maybe you need to follow up with them, or maybe you need to tell them you need to be followed up with. Friends, what we did yesterday was pretty powerful. We made awkward eye contact with one another. We shared some pretty meaningful conversations. Today's the day where we prepare you to follow up. I'm going to send the microphone back into the Smart Center. Thank you for a little bit of time today. I love you all. Let's go do this thing.
Before we kick it off, if either of you has any words or anything you'd like to share before we go.
Well, just thank you. Thanks for including me in this opportunity. Really, just two quick things I would say. You know, I had the privilege to serve in A1Z, and so human resilience as it was stood up. And there were a lot of things that were being worked on at that time. But one of the things that was missing was the ability to take these grassroots ideas and concepts, which may have some real valid capabilities for the Air Force, and then put them through a process that makes them effective across the institution. And I love the way you said it. You know, some things work in some places differently, right? That we start to understand that how communities, how they perform and how they act and what they need. I think this process is so important, and it was missing. The other one was, you know, years ago, I attended a first ever suicide prevention workshop. And, you know, it was probably the first ever. And so I just remember the person opening saying, let's not have another first ever, all right, sort of thing. And so I'm really excited that there's been so much rigor put into this that it just seems like it's being baked in from the beginning that this will be long lasting and effective. So thank you for letting me be a part of this. Sir.
All right, so good morning, everybody, and I couldn't be more excited to be here. So first of all, to General Johnson, thanks so much. We spent some time in my office at the Pentagon yesterday, but I know this great leader, and we had some great discussions. We could have kept on talking about something as important as this, you know, but we have a true subject matter expert here with us, somebody who spent time in A1Z getting that established. And you know, the welfare of our airmen, guardians, and our loved ones is something that you're very passionate about. So we're very excited that you're here. I'm also excited to be here with a good sister of mine, Miss Christy. So, you know, another treat to have her here. So thank you so much for all the work that we don't even see you doing. And then all the work that you do by going out to spend meaningful time. You know, JW talks about connecting. I mean, you connect so much with our people and do so much. So thanks for being here and taking time out of your busy schedule. And then again, thanks to all the volunteers here. Like, this is really impressive. And I mean, just really, I'm sitting here just in awe that you guys, I mean, all of you all have full-time gigs. Like, not one of you all is just like, you know, not busy, and to include the folks in this room. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. I will say that, right, it's already gotten super deep and I haven't finished my coffee. So, you know, to see a spreadsheet somebody worked hard on that spreadsheet, by the way. And as you guys started briefing out kind of how how an idea or a concept in somebody's mind goes through the widgets. I was like, of course we have, a maintainer officer and an intel officer leading the charge. That's why, I'm a simple ops girl. I'm like, here's what you do and here's how it flows, and then magic happens. So, but the reality is, like, for those of y'all who are like me, I actually sat there and I appreciate the process. I'm a simple person, graduated high school from Hawaii. And what I appreciated about what you all outlined on how a concept comes to fruition is that not only are we making a difference on the health and welfare and the fortification of people in the force, but we're actually teaching some meaningful tools on how to actually make stuff happen in an organization as large as ours, right? Like, stuff doesn't just happen. And so I love that we're teaching people from E1 to O10, to GS1 to whatever. We're teaching tools on how to make meaningful change in the military. And again, I say that from an ops heart, where I just say, let's just do it, right? Like, but there has to be, to some degree, if we're going to do it right, some analysis behind it and some thought behind it. And so you all are teaching a skill set to the team. And so that's goodness. So thanks for what you all are doing. I would also offer, don't ever get discouraged when things feel tough. That's why you have champions. And that's why you have myself and Chief Toberman to make sure that we're stepping up to take that barrier, that burden off your plate, if you will. So I would say, I appreciate that you guys are going to use a process to help get after meaningful change, but never let it deter you, right? Like, sometimes it's also about timing, and we have to be thoughtful in that. As I look back at my 29-year career, sometimes I felt like I had a great idea and I was frustrated at, man, why is it taking so long to happen? Sometimes it's just about timing, and the timing has to be right. So anyway, I'm excited to spend the next few hours with this team. And with that, we'll turn it back over to you all.
Yes, Chief. So you guys will see several members of our team. Again, Kira is our MC, but she's also our GS representative, because our team represents civilians. Mark Clements is a crew chief and maintainer. You can see his maintenance badge there on his shoulder. And here representing, some of our junior and NCO level enlisted force. We represent the Space Force, the Air Force, our civilian counterparts, our spouses and families. And we thank Christy for being here with us today. And we have a huge population of veterans and retirees on our team as well. So as we move into these initiatives, you'll see an opportunity from the audience to kind of share how you think these initiatives will impact all of those demographics. And we're looking forward to hearing from you today for that. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our teammate, GC Garrett Christian. Are you on the line?
I am. They brought me here for energy. Yes, that's what I do. I'm like the hype man. Seriously, I dig it. Before I begin, first and foremost, I want to say, J-Dub, thank you so much for the reflection piece on day one before we step into day two. That reflection helps us see where we're kind of going and what we're trying to get after, right? Because this FFIT force is right. It's led by volunteer airmen, guardians, and family members and civilians. And we're all trying to take that most important step, which is the next one, right? The one in front of us, that important step that sometimes is hard to do, for sure. So having champions, having people provide us the proverbial fuel so we can kind of get after this stuff gives us the courage to kind of do these things, right? And courage, make no mistake about it, is not necessarily internal, man. It's external, right? It's our teammates, it's our warriors that give us the courage to do those hard things and to kind of get after taking care of this stuff. Woo! I'm telling you what, people, don't even worry, Chief Bash. You only have to drink your coffee. I got you. I'm gonna provide you all the energy, even though the sun is not shining here on the West Coast. Teammates, Major General Johnson, thank you so much for being here. Chief Bass, lovely. It's great to see you again. Definite. Christy, powerful. Love the red. You're showing it out. Chris, thank you so much. JJ, Strike, Mark, I see you there. Don't even worry about it. Yes. And then my co-lead, Kira, we're going to kind of work this initiative piece. We have 6 initiatives to present to you. And those teammates have been working super hard on developing the pitch and presentation. The flow is going to be pretty simple. 6 initiatives, 20 minutes apiece. They're going to have 5 minutes to pitch, 5 minutes of feedback from the panel group sitting there. And then we're going to break away, do 5 minutes of room discussion, and we're going to final that up and come back for 5 minutes of just final questions and remarks as we move on to the next one. It's going to flow real nice. Myself and Kara, we got you. No problems there, for sure, for sure. I'm telling you, these initiatives, I'm excited. Not to say I'm not excited would be an understatement. Just like a thought, a seed that sits on a shelf, it's not going to grow. They planted these things and we cultivated that environment for these teams so that bad boy can burst from the ground and reach to the sky, if you will, or just like a baby bird who jumps from the nest and takes flight. Yes, I might have chevrons, but people, I got bars, warriors, for sure, no doubt. All right, so here we go. Initiative teams, are you ready? The first initiative that we're going to start off with is You Matter. Chris, how you doing, sir? You ready to take this away?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's giddy up.
That's what I'm talking about, sir. You see the clock behind the panel team. You have 5 minutes. Hit them with that good phraseology, and I look forward to it.
All right, here we go. Imagine after a long day of work, you open up your social media to decompress, right? It's been like a 12, 14-hour day, and you find a message in there from a good friend who made a post 15 minutes ago. Says, that's it. I'm done with this life, and I'm doing something about it right now. And you know they're serious because you've been talking to them in private messages for the past month off and on, and you know the gravity of their struggles. You love your friend. You want to help them in this very moment. Go. Wait, by the way, your friend lives hundreds of miles away from you, and you don't have their phone number, and you don't know their address because they just moved. What do you do?
All right, sir, that sounds great. If you need anything else.
Right? Everybody's like, I got nothing. Like, I was put in this very situation, and after a flurry of panic, I quickly assessed the tools I had at my disposal as a seasoned service member, leader, former commander, and aviator. And there was only one thing to help my friend, and it wasn't even designed for these types of situations. So I adapted it to life, and now it is. It was a simple acronym, MATTER. We use it as aviators when the wings are about to fall off and the engines are on fire. We use it as a guide to stay calm and focus on the most immediate issues at hand and resolve them with an immediate action plan that we committed to memory. M, maintain control. Not again. Man, I've already lost 4 friends to this monster. Stay calm, I say to myself. Breathe. Wind the clock. Think before acting. A, analyze the situation. What are the facts of my buddy's situation? What tools and resources do I have at my disposal? Who are the helpers? T, take the appropriate action. Aviate, navigate, communicate, popped into my mind. Communicate. Others posted a response. Maybe they'll help too. How do I call 911? There's no way he's going to do it for himself, but I can send him a voice message, and we do have video capability. Maybe he'll answer. R, refer to your checklist. What? There's no checklist for this, but I can build a hasty plan. Rally his Facebook friends that responded to his post, get my buddy to talk to me, call for help, and get that help to his location. Communicate, communicate, communicate. It worked. Professional help arrived, took him to the hospital, and he's still with us today. In that moment of trying to help my friend, my mind wanted to freak out, but Matter calmed me down and kicked in a focused mindset forged in a different kind of training. It became the glue that bonded all these bits of leadership, combat, human, life, all these training experiences in my life to culminate a recipe of knowledge that helped me help my friend be his own hero. In SOF, we have a truth in special operations that says humans are more important than hardware. And in combat rescue, where I hail from, we demonstrate that with our conviction of these things we do that others may live. And that's my purpose. Not that others can survive or stay alive or just see another day. It's no kidding. Live, be alive. So I want to help them with that, right? And so I realized with my requirements background that I just found the gap in our current solution. Our current solutions are reactive, not proactive. No one is coming for that one person in their darkest hour because no one knows they're in it. And there's nothing to empower that person to affect their own rescue and be their own hero in that moment when they're battling with their demons. I realized that people must make the change for themselves long before that moment when they hit that darkest spot. But they don't know how to, or they would have done it already. So 1 year ago, based on those lessons and the success I had with helping my friend and others, I developed a simple aviation themed, operational based, scalable workshop to help our service members and veterans learn to unify and strengthen their current trusted relationships, develop a personal plan to improve their quality of life while identifying potential for the future struggles, and how to build a personalized get well plan for that darkest moment that enables them to be their own hero when, not if, when they have an unavoidable crisis that seems to be more than they can manage. I call this workshop I created You Matter, how to get awesome and stay awesome. It's a proactive approach to master life's greatest challenges, avoid or prepare for the predictable struggles in advance, and be ready to champion that darkest moment before it happens. I only got 14 seconds left, so I'm gonna hit you with one question. Do you have in your life 5 trusted confidants that you reach out to tell them your success stories and ask for help? 5.
Thank you so much, sir. That's what I'm talking about. Getting ahead of the aircraft. So I'm gonna definitely, as an ops person, I connected with that, and I'll leave it to the panel for the initial feedback on that presentation, on that pitch.
Hey, Chris, good job, man.
Hey, Kira,
Good job.
thanks.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you most of all for one thing that I think we all need to try to live, which is being the change. You took a thing and you created change, and you're still continuing to create change. So thank you for that.
I do. I'm teaching it to airmen right now here at Hickam, Chief. So next time you come to town, if you come to town the next month, I'll show it to you. I'm only here for a month.
You're only there for a month? All right, okay, we're gonna have to figure something out.
Yes, ma'am. Then I'm on my way to terminal leave. So
Well, good. Hey, Switch, thanks so much. And I love seeing the green feet and back you. You know, I have ties back to that as well. Hey, so just real quick, so I can understand the operational workshop piece. Can you help describe that? Like, is that a literal online type operational workshop? How do people get plugged into You Matter? And how do we find out about it?
right, I built this in COVID, right? So I do have an online. I've literally been just like you guys building this as I'm flying it, right, over the last year. And so I've got an online course that I'm publishing right now. That is a like 11 module workshop. Each module is like 30 minutes. The shortest one's about 2.5. And it's out there. It's a paid program that people can pay for. But right now, honestly, Chief, I'm teaching it here locally. And I'm going to try and hook up with Ellsworth Air Force Base when I move to South Dakota here in a month and see if I can maybe do something for FTACers or TAP or something like that. Air Force still has me till 1 September, and I'm just going to keep giving this away while I've got access to whoever wants it, because I believe in this so much. I don't believe it. I know this works. I've seen this work over and over and over again.
That's awesome. Hey, I will probably see you in Ellsworth because I just wrote that down last night as a place that I'd like to get to within the next 60 days. So when you teach it to our folks at FTAC or whom you're teaching it to, are you teaching then the principles that you're right now outlining on an online 11 module?
I am. There's 3 basic frameworks to this whole thing, and it's all cumulative. You learn something and then that builds on the next thing. The first thing is understanding how to identify your 5 lifeguards, and then understanding how to connect them together through a common communication. JW mentioned Marco Polo. That is an incredible app for this, because when people can see each other's faces, it instantly changes the dynamics of a conversation, as he mentioned. But you also need like a group text chat, because we're all spread out across the world. I call these lifeguards. I have my 5, and they're literally spread out across the world. And what's cool about this is these are 5 people that never knew each other, but entered my life at different times in life. And I introduced them to each other, and now they're helping each other out. It's incredible. And it's getting contagious. I was in charge of aircrew flight equipment in one of my assignments, and one of those folks was having a struggle here these past few months. And so I created a Marco Polo chat room, and I used this program, and I brought them in there, and it keeps growing. All the guys and gals from AFE during that time keep jumping into this Marco Polo room, and they're just elated with what they can see, because they've left and they've lost their purpose, right? So I didn't even get to it, but it's 5. And then the next thing I do is I use what we use in aviation, Chief, for basic planning, right? We plan the mission, then we prepare to do the mission, then we brief the mission, right? Then we step to the aircraft, and then we execute the mission, which is life in this case, live your life. And then, oh, by the way, you debrief those lessons learned so that you can improve and make it better. So I use that model to walk you through some simple tools for each model on how to make a better version of yourself. And I call the whole thing get awesome and stay awesome. And getting awesome is the easy part, right? And then the last part of that is the MATTER acronym. I give them basically it's like a business card that folds in half. And that business card has the MATTER acronym and some no kidding reminder points right off the bat that help you remember in your darkest moment, what am I supposed to do? If you followed the course and you don't remember anything else, you have that card and it also has a place where you can write down the names and numbers of your 5 lifeguards and some other tips to it. Those are the 3 main elements of You Matter.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, thanks for that presentation. It's really, really good. You mentioned you've seen it work. Are you collecting feedback on the people that have gone through the course?
I am, yeah, and it's still I'm still collating it all to see what makes sense of it most. But real time, it's worked where I've gotten phone calls from people after the fact. Hey, I was able to help somebody with this, or hey, this actually helped me. I was in a dark spot, and there's been a couple of those. I've taught this to a group of felons, believe it or not, a class of 25 addicts who were doing a recovery, and 50% of that class is still using this. And you think of the challenge of that. Someone who's been an addict for a long time doesn't have some of the cognitive capabilities that someone who hasn't would have, right? And they're still doing it. It's gaining traction, but it's still infant and it's still growing.
Also curious, thank you. Also curious if you're determining what it would take to create a facilitator. So what does it take to create you?
Yes, I have thought of that. And I could do a train the trainer based off of this model. I think the number one thing it takes is the right personality. I think that's something we haven't considered in the past. We just look for somebody and say, you can do it. You got free time. You've got to have you got to have a Sierra or a GC, right?
Thanks so much for that, Chris. We are going to
Sure.
send you over to GC and some of our audience members, and we will talk amongst ourselves. See you in 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Kira. Thanks, Chiefs.
They got 5 minutes there. They're talking to amongst themselves. I don't know if they can hear us. Maybe they can. Maybe they can't, but I hope everyone is able to access the link that JW sent out. You just quickly put your hands over the camera. Were you able to access that link and show it? That's what I'm talking about. There it is. Thank you, JW. So this is right. We're crowdsourcing feedback and information to provide to Chris and to couple with the feedback that we have from the panel group members. What are your guys' initial thoughts? I got you on the mic. I don't think they can hear us, but we could do that real talk like we've been doing all day. From the crowd here. Anyone have anything with Chris for Chris?
Hi, this is Abby. I wrote in the chat, I love this idea and kind of putting the emphasis on the individual and training an individual person. But I kind of wrote, and I think maybe this was discussed at the end, like how would this be trained across the entire force? Would this be more people sign up or mandatory, kind of like an annual training? What is your kind of idea for that?
So Abby, that's a great question. And what I'll tell you is I think it needs to be scaled. I think this is something that if you made it mandatory, you could put it at risk of doing what we've done in the past and make it something less than desirable and less effective, right? And that's why I recommend starting with someone like FTACers, where we can infuse it into our culture at the beginning and maybe TAP helping those at the end. It could certainly, as it grows, like I said, with the online course, that could be made available to anybody in the Air Force. They could just go do it whenever they want. And the cool part about this, like you said, is I teach this. I can teach it in large groups. As I'm teaching it, I'm never asking anybody to share private information. It is me guiding you on a conversation to have with yourself. And that's just what we don't get enough of. that help?
Yeah, agreed. I was kind of thinking the same thing. Making it mandatory or an annual training might dilute what you're trying to do. So.
Switch, I think this is this is something that is so needed. And the way that you go about it, I think makes a difference, because I truly think that in 2019, we saw a 300% increase in suicides across the enterprise. And the Air Force got it wrong, right? Because our response to it was, we're going to shorten suicide awareness training. We're going to combine it with SAPR training, and we're going to tag an airman who doesn't have any desire to do it, go brief off us some PowerPoint slides. And it's not working. It's not working at all. Otherwise, we wouldn't still be burying our brothers and sisters. So I am so intrigued by this. There's two programs that I've been working with since 2019 that are kind of similar. And I'd love to chat with you about it, because I think you're on the right track. And I think that this is going to be, if we can get it off the ground, I think it's going to be amazing. So I look forward to working with you. I just sent you a message, but I think you're spot on with not making it a mandatory training. And I think the way you're doing it is going to reach more people than most realize.
Yeah, we got like a minute left, and I got a question here. It says from Shu, he wants to know how would this get after total force members, dependents, civilians, veterans? Same thing. This is not exclusive to anybody. Just because it has a military frame and some acronyms, anybody can be taught this and understand it. It's tailored for veterans and military because we are checklist oriented and we do like those things, right? I'll give you an example. One thing that I didn't get to share with you guys because I was limited to the 5 minutes, but there's one tool I call the GAS gauge. It's just a wellness check. GAS is the acronym I made up. It stands for Get Awesome Scale, because that's what you're trying to measure. And it's just 7 elements in your life: purpose, place, people, provision, physical health, psychological health, and your possessions and your pastimes. And all I do is I teach you the in-depth of those, and psychological is also spiritual, and I have you score them. That score becomes your context when you talk to your lifeguards. How are you doing today, man? How's your gas gauge? How awesome are you? Hey, I'm at an 80. And then 2 weeks later, maybe you're at a 57. And the answer is, hey, dude, what's up? And it could either be, hey, I want to tell you, or hey, I don't want to talk about it, but at least they know something's going on.
All right, there we go. We see the clock. Thank you so much, Chris. We're going to go back to the panel. Could you guys hear us? Can you guys hear me? We're good on that one? Panel, are we good? I don't know. I think they're still discussing.
GC, I'm going to send a note to Strike. My guess is that they turned their volume down so that we couldn't and they couldn't. So stand by one, please.
Yeah, no worries, sir. Get Awesome Scale. I wrote it down. I love it. As one of the few enlisted pilots, I feel you, sir. I got it. I learned that battle for sure. Get ahead of the aircraft, no doubt.
Yeah, that was huge. Going from enlisted to officer, but just that piece of aviation and understand all those things, huge help.
Oh, for sure.
So let's get it to everybody. I don't need to
Yeah.
hang on to it. I'm not selfish.
Yeah. We're doing it all for the reasons. I love that. I love that.
Sure.
Well, thanks again. I think the presentation really revealed a lot to us, for us first getting that first blush. The chief had some really great points just about how this sort of thing might be rolled out across the Air Force, in a way that avoids some of the traps that we've seen before, that we're not throwing money or people at a problem, but that it's really thoughtful, and that the ideas that you revealed today have some real, there's some real value in the ideas, and how are those implemented I think that's the piece that's still, you know, to be determined, you know, how you would implement that across the entire institution. And, you know, there are 154 solutions to every problem. We typically look at one or two, but there are probably a lot of ways to implement this.
Yeah. Which I would ask you, like, what is the ask, or where do you hope to, you know, this to go? Sorry.
Well, Chief, this is I mean, the ask is I'm just trying to serve in another higher capacity as I transition into retirement. And right now, like I said, I am teaching this to airmen here at the gathering place every Wednesday. And the ask is just to have the opportunity to keep doing that. And I think there's low cost ways as I transition out and have less access with, I mean, materials for workbooks, honestly, and maybe some travel costs. I don't know what travel is from 50 miles away from Rapid City. It can't be much, but stuff like that. And then, you know, figuring out how to get it out there. I've already paid for the online stuff, so there might be a cost associated with later if people want to have single access to that, make it very scalable and affordable. I'm also not trying to make a buck. I just need to get it out there, but I know that if I don't ask for some money for it, I can't get it out to as many people that should have it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I have a question. How long does it take for you to facilitate something like this? And is it scalable where if a squadron or installation is like, hey, we don't have the opportunity to be able to do a, you know, once a month or whatever it is, but you know, in the same way that the Air Force currently, it's pretty standard practice that we have 4 lens type training and some of that, but I think we've helped kind of get the copyright, if you will, of that. And you can scale it, right? You can do abbreviated version. Like, is that possible with this? Because, you know, I don't know about like creating a bunch of switches in you know, throughout the formations is the answer. Instead, maybe we provide some of the principles that you've helped create and push that down in an abbreviated version for folks. Like, any thoughts to that?
So it is Chief, scalable already. Like I say, each module I have is 30 minutes, right? This is something I could be at base X. Again, we'll just use Ellsworth since that's where I'm going, right? I could spend a month there and just rotate people in and out an hour at a time, where they get an hour block one week, come in the next week, they get another hour block or less, 30 minutes or whatever it might be. And I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. The answer is yes. The short answer is yes. It'd be very easy to do. It's what the force needs and how we could adapt it.
The only other thing I would say is, you know, years ago, the DARE program was implemented, and a lot of people don't know that DARE actually doesn't work. It actually put more kids on drugs, and it continued to be executed because I don't think they were collecting the data and sharing that data. And so not to make it an onerous process, but really determining, is it working, and continuing to reflect that to the institution is really important.
That is 100% an absolute valuable input. And I couldn't agree with you more. Like, that data and that feedback is not only going to tell you if it's working, but which parts aren't and how to make it better. Right. And again, this is just focusing on how to make us all better instead of having reactive approaches.
I love that, Chris. I love that. We have 36 seconds. Do we have any final remarks before we give all this data?
I don't know if the team in here does, but I'll just say one thing. I very much, again, I'm just going to try not to copyright what you've done, but I love the way you've outlined it in an ops way, in the sense of, you know, kind of mission planning, briefing, executing, debriefing, right? Universal principles in life. And so how do we start to teach that? Team 19 does that, by the way. We debrief every event, right? Like, it's just part of what we do to help ourselves be better. So what we need to continue this conversation, Switch. It really was money, but any other thoughts in this room?
Love your passion.
I love that it's proactive and not reactive, creating networks. It's great.
Hearts to you, Chris.
Yeah.
Good job, man.
Perfect, Switch. We have the data to you, sir. So please stay on and we'll get you some more information. And always, thank you so much. We have Michael Yerby in the bullpen ready to go with
Stay
live
awesome.
talks. Yes, a comprehensive platform for social interaction. There he is on the big screen. You ready? We got 5 minutes on the clock. As soon as you go, we'll start it.
He's still muted.
There you go.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tech Sergeant Michael Yerby. I'm a 2 Alpha 6 from Barksdale Air Force Base, representing the 2nd Bomb Wing. And today I want to talk to you guys about Life Talk. Messages worth hearing. In our 2008 RAND report, we noticed that 47% of our servicemen and women are not using mental health support. And those primary barriers that's stopping them from using those primary support systems is personal and professional stigma, that bureaucracy, and let's be honest, a lack of trust. My solution is Life Talks. Life Talks is leaders, innovation, family, and education. Life Talks is a personal development platform that incorporates a self-paced, step-by-step programs, courses, blogs, online forum and support groups, video presentations, and an in-person conference that allows for units and different career fields to come together to crosstalk. Now, my mission model canvas, I'm working on it because I need to collect that data, that analytics. So 3 weeks ago, I decided to create a website, lifextalks.com. Again, that is lifextalks.com. Now, in that, I started issuing blogs. And last week, I had one great blog. I got with one of our service members' wives. She's a dependent. Her husband is a captain. He just recently deployed to an undisclosed location. And while he arrived there, he got some bad news. He had COVID. Fearing the worst, he called back home and found out that his wife, his 2-year-old son, Ethan, his 7-year-old daughter, Madison, and his wife had COVID. Could you believe it? Now, she had the support group. She had her unit to help her. She had different support services, but she was still angry, mad, upset. She didn't know exactly what to do. And she blamed the Air Force. So I got with her last week and I said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you write 500 words or more, a blog post about the problem, and also what do you see a solution is? As she wrote that blog post and we went over it together, she had a lot of change in her mind, a lot of resiliency to do something different. And she also encouraged others. So last week I posted the blog and it got 137 people who loved it. And people was like, wow, that's great. I love that. Man, I'm resilient as well. Yes, man, you really helped me. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Now, we all know that different processes are out there, understandable so, but Life Talks is that solution. And my call to action is I need more content creators to drive more users to establish more analytics for this program. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Mike. It was awesome, man. Hopefully I'm not breaking up. It sounded like I was for a little bit. As before we get to the panel, just let you know, J-Dub's going to put a link in here and just please provide feedback while we start doing the Q&A. But panel, I'll drop it to you.
Hey, Sergeant Yerby. Good job, man.
Thank you, ma'am.
So what we're talking about here, right? This is a platform for people to share ideas.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir?
So is it like storytellers? Like
Yes. So it's like storytellers, but think of it's like TED Talks or Talks by Google or Big Think, but we incorporate a online feature. So anyone who's a content creator can actually go there and actually make a program, a course, and actually facilitate it with video included. And also with every step of the course, he can ask questions and collect that data.
So what's the outcome you're looking for?
Well, the outcome I'm looking for myself is personal development platform. So one thing I noticed is that when people start working on themselves, they're able to identify things in themselves that they need to change. And so it allows a person to, not be stopped by those stigmas to seek professional help if they need it, or to ask their chain of command for help or speak up.
So would you say that this is kind of like, almost like a background, behind the scenes self-life coaching? So basically you're giving them a safe space to put out information, right? Because they need to rant or they need to talk or something along those lines. You're providing them this platform, and then they come to the realization on their own what it is that they're seeking and need.
Yes, it's basically a social network, a community. So like with every program and course that we incorporate on LifeX Talk, you can actually have a support group connected with it. So people can come together after they take the course, they can actually come together and talk and communicate with one another. And also like one of my courses that I actually have there is called Understand Your Why. I teach it to FTAC students, and I made it available online because I wanted that capability that they can go online and do it in privacy. And also I can collect that data through questions and surveys.
What are you going to do with the data?
Basically tailor it and make it a lot better in a sense of my target audience. My target audience for this Life Talks is roughly between E1 through E6 and 01 through 04.
Michael, first of all, great job. And I love that you care enough that you would already have put all this work into this and create something. I would offer to you, you can already roll this out, and you are. We have several sites already that our airmen, guardians, loved ones, veterans all go to, right? They go to sites like Wingman Outreach. They go to Quarantine University. They go to, like, there are several online social media sites that people go to that if you started posting that Life Talks as I wrote down a couple notes on here that I appreciated out of it. You talk about it's a social network. It's a place for people to get personal development. And I agree with you a ton, right? If you develop yourself personally, you can't help but develop yourself professionally. If you're a better human being, then you're going to be a better wingman. If you're a better human being, you're going to be a better NCO, a better officer, a better spouse, a better mom, dad, etc. And you're really capitalizing on the power of connection. Like, so for me, I would ask you, like, why not just go do it? Like, put it out there to all of those spots, let it start to generate and grow, and let's see what happens from there, right? Like, I talk about it all the time. Programs isn't what helps save people, right? It's got to be built in our DNA, but you're providing something that people can start right now. And I think the demand and the feedback that you'll get from people will help you grow in better ways. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, one thing I share with you as well that I appreciated about this is, all of us have seen times where we may be a little bit angry. Somebody may email us something, or we want to send somebody an email, we're a little bit angry. But by the time you type that thing out and you read back over it, you realize, hey, maybe I'm coming off the top too much. I need to walk away for a little bit. So I like how you did that with that blog. Sometimes folks just need to get stuff out. They may be angry, upset, or disappointed, and just having a way to be able to get that out and put it on wax just to kind of clear their mind, I think is very helpful. So definitely great job on that.
All right. Thank you. We're going to send you over to GC, and in the room, we'll just discuss a little more. Good job.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, squad. All right, so we're all together here. Mike, thank you so much for the presentation. Guys, we have an opportunity to provide some crowdsource and some feedback for him. If you guys haven't already done the survey, I see that we are getting after that. So perfect. You guys have any immediate feedback that we can provide, Mike?
GC, it's Cap here. Can I jump in?
Of course, Cap. Of course, sir.
Hey, Sean, excellent presentation, great pitch. Like you killed it. Talking about mission model canvas, end user feedback, customer discovery. Like you're on it. You get it. So my question to you would be, as you develop these things and you build them out, so it's great to always have another app, another thing, another source. They kind of alluded to it in the room. If you had your ideal end state, like your constant dream state of where you sit, what could we leverage in our corporate Air Force system to inlay the algorithms that you built, the website that you have, and where would you ideally, let's say like things kind of worked like they're supposed to, where would you want to put your stuff into the Air Force where airmen can access it, where people could see it? Like, what does that look like? Could you tell me what do you envision that? You log in your computer one day or you pull your phone up, like, what does that look like to you? Thanks.
What it does look like to me is basically a online platform, but it's not DoD regulated, right? So just like Life Talks, sorry, not Life Talk, like Tech Talks, you have in-person conferences, and that's basically the bread and butter of Life Talks, because I wanted to do an in-person conference because every base has different needs, correct, right? And when you have the speakers come, which I'm trying to focus on between E1 through E6, and like I said, O1 through O4, you notice those individuals resonate more with the crowd, and people actually talk and communicate because they don't feel like it's coming from a leader or a person that's, speaking down to them, but speaking with them and to them, right? And so I see it as big as TED Talks in the sense of, we have subscribers through YouTube, Facebook. We're able to have that platform through LifeX Talks. We're able to have it on Twitter as well. And we're actually shaping that narrative that we need versus having those other people as the detractors, shape that narrative for us.
That's excellent. I thank you for your insight and what your dream state would look like. I would hope one day I see this with a talent management tool or our organization change management tool where you set and scatter plot to see where your pulse check is. And then one of your talks comes up at the end when somebody wants to maybe engage in a different area, or they want to expand their possibilities, or they're trying to learn more about this topic, and a nice little link pops up in one of my tool forms. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll probably be reaching out.
Yes, sir.
Perfect, Cap. Thanks for I see that design for sure. Luke, up to you, sir. You got the hand up.
Yeah, just a question about moderation. So we see some pages like Reddit threads and the Airman NCO, Senior NCO page kind of running way off target. How do you plan on imposing any sort of moderation on this?
For me, the moderation piece is very, very important. Thank you so much for the question. So one thing is that you actually have to be a member of Life Talks before you can post or say anything, right? So that also gives me you can't be just, showmo off the street, you're disgruntled about the military because you decided to do something that you wasn't supposed to do, and now you got kicked out, and now you want to just say anything and everything. You have to become a member. Now, with that, we have moderation in that. So if you're saying something bad, worse, thinking like nature, and it's flagged, then it gets hidden, and then you have. I'm developing a policy for, like, say, if you have one hit, you've been warned. 2 hits, then now you're gone.
Awesome, thanks.
Any more quick questions? We got about a minute here. A minute 15 as the clock ticks down. I'm double tapping, looking at the audience, looking at chat.
I'll jump in real quick. What did you leave out of the pitch? What did you have to cut? Give me 30 seconds of that.
For me, what I cut is the story of the problem. Like there was a airman, his name was Airman Ohms. And this is kind of the reason I started doing this, is because it was no indications and he committed suicide, and it kind of messed me up for a long time. So as I went through my own personal healing and personal development, I realized that, man, personal development does actually help. So.
Thank you, brother, for sharing that. Appreciate
No problem,
it.
sir.
We're all going to send you a heart following Daylina.
I love it. All the love. All right, let's jump back to the panel.
Great presentation. Thank you, Sergeant Yerby. Question about the acronym itself. Could you quickly kind of go through like the leadership piece of that? What does that look like?
So leadership for me does not mean exactly like the SimSAF or the CSAF actually have to share this, but leaders as a E1 through E6 are a person who's standing up, who's asking those questions. So like with the in-person conference, we're trying to focus on 4 areas: the big idea, the small idea, innovative ideas, and also that talk where, you know, there's things that happen in the workplace that needs to be addressed so we can come with those multi-complexual answers that, you know, attack the root of the problem.
Does LIFE, your acronym, does it stand for anything, or are we just talking life?
Basically, it's we're talking life. We're talking life.
Again, I actually love an opportunity to be able to connect in this way. And I think that this platform would resonate with many people. You know, people love to blog and learn from each other and connect with each other. People love to be able to go to a site to perhaps get information. And so I would, my question though to you, Michael, is the intent that lifetalks.com, lifex.talks.com going to be run by you, moderated by you, with the ability for people to put their content on, or how do you envision that rolling out?
Yes, so it can be just moderated by myself, and I can bring in partners as well. And also I can have facilitators for the online programs. I can have a writer or an editor monitor the blog, also with the online forum, and then also have a person like from PA, for example, that's going through the video presentations, making sure everything is lining up.
Is there anything that would keep you from rolling this out now?
No, ma'am, I'm doing it right now. It's just a slow process of trying to actually do that in-person conference due to COVID, and just want to make sure we in safety and regulations.
Yeah. No, I love the idea. I think that if I were you, I would stay connected to FFIT from a coaching perspective to help make sure, right? Like, you know, to just have that support network, if you will, you know, as you're navigating this. I even see utility in connecting Life Talks to FFIT if it lines up well enough, you know, because again, I think, you know, people get different things from different forums. And I think that, you know, there are many people who would love to be able to get onto this site.
Anybody else have anything?
I like that on the answers from the audience, family was, I think that's so important. And thank you for including the family in that as well. I'm excited to get on it.
Yeah, you're creating connection, and that's amazing. So, dude, let's talk after this, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael.
Right.
Great job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. That's super good, Mike. Thank you, boss. That's what I'm talking about. We got a minute 20 left, but hey, you know what? We're trying to catch up on time here. So let's take 5 minutes, everybody, before we roll into the next pitch. We'll take 5 minutes, quick 5 minutes, go get something to drink, stretch it out, and then see you back for sure.
Yes, I did. There we go. Okay.
GC, they're all seeing the behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, dual comms. I'm feeling like an operator, man. I got channel 1, channel 2, all kinds of stuff going on over here.
Yes, I know. It's good. It's good. Puts you through that multitasking pace for sure. I dig it.
Hey, Yardley, I'm going to be at Barksdale in a week and a half. If you have time for coffee one morning, let me know. I'll meet you over at that B52 place.
Heck yeah. I'd like to meet you too.
Wait, I'm at Barksdale. I want to meet you.
Oh man, Barksdale party. Come on. Let's make it happen.
Absolutely.
Definitely. You guys should. Rashad's there with Sarah. Sarah's there as well. Tell you what.
Well, we need to figure it out.
Hello again, GC. Who do we have next?
Oh, welcome back, everybody. First and foremost, hope everyone's got is hydrated and ready to go for the next pitch. We have Chief Master Sergeant Jen Cox. She has an amazing pitch here. I won't even spoil it for you guys, but it's for accessibility resources for holistic care. Jen, over to you. Ready to go.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Good morning. I'm Chief Master Sergeant Jen Cox, Chief of Personnel and Readiness for the United States Air Force Band, and it's my honor to present the Air Force and Space Force Wellness Center initiative. We need to ask ourselves, how might we mitigate the erupting demand for mental health and medical care that we simply have not been able to provide? How do we foster individual growth and connection and shift the culture to a proactive mindset? My goal today is to get your approval to establish a working group that will evaluate and expedite the stand-up of Air Force and Space Force wellness centers on every base or geographic region. I say Air Force and Space Force wellness centers, but it doesn't really matter what we call it. I'd like to see the Armed Forces Wellness Center model brought to all our bases. By establishing AFWCs, we can shift focus from a culture of providing crisis management to proactive prevention through proven year-round methodologies. Yesterday, Chief Bass mentioned that out of 10 people who went to mental health, only 2 people actually needed clinical services. I think this proposal ties into that information very well. If it's more about needing the resources and tools or a safe space to be heard and listened to, the Armed Forces Wellness Center is an incredible step forward in providing that to our people. We have to maintain a healthy population that has the physical, mental, and behavioral capabilities to meet today's challenge and adapt and cope with adversity. We all know that unhealthy lifestyles can lead to weight gain, obesity, chronic pain, diabetes, and high blood pressure. But we also must consider that chronic conditions lead to long-term medical healthcare costs. By creating a year-round holistic prevention approach, we can support our most valuable resource, our people. This is what Armed Forces Wellness Centers can do for us. They provide an environment free from reprisal or stigma. Our research studies showed that behavior changed after only 5 visits to the Wellness Center within 1 year. We propose that all bases implement Air Force Wellness Centers. The Wellness Center model is an Army program and would be based on existing Army and Armed Forces Wellness Centers. Currently, there are 35 AFWCs at major commands across the world. As you can see from the slide, Armed Forces Wellness Centers focus on the true total force and offer the same kind of care to families as they do our active duty component. It also illustrates improved holistic outcomes with wellness center engagement. We realize that these centers come at a cost, and the most problematic barriers we face are money, manning, infrastructure, and buy-in. I know you may be thinking to yourself, Chief, we already have this through the Hawk. Why do we need this? Well, Armed Forces Wellness Centers have some pretty incredible resources that aren't available to most of us, like the BOD pod, metabolic testing, VO2 max, and biofeedback for stress management. Voluntary assessments with professionals trained in the health sciences target barriers to health and are a readiness multiplier that prioritizes a people-first philosophy. I mentioned forced buy-in being a barrier to implementation. While I visited the Hawk once in my 25 career, I visited the Army Armed Forces Wellness Center 6 times in the last year. I've lost 11 pounds, 4% body fat, and dropped my stress levels from what appeared to be the worst they'd ever seen to moderately okay. It was interesting when I polled my colleagues about their experiences with the Hawk. Most didn't even know what I was talking about, and many replied that they loved the Armed Forces Wellness Center at Fort Belvoir and have used it many times already. I thought about the reasons I keep returning to them for assistance, and I think it boils down to trust and respect. I know they have the training and the knowledge to help me reach my goals. I can feel the sincerity of the celebration of the director when I told her I lost 11 pounds, and I'm constantly inspired to be better for myself and my family as I go through the testing that will help me be a healthier, more productive human. One of my favorite authors, Emily Nagoski, wrote that wellness is not a state of being, it's a state of action. Prevention starts at the individual level, and we can invest in our people by implementing Armed Forces Wellness Centers on all of our bases. Establishing these centers ties directly into the Guardian ideal and what we're trying to get after in the Air Force. Connection to each other, commitment to our people to provide them the best prevention tools we can, and courage to set course on a new holistic path to help our people feel empowered and valued. That is who we are, and that is what we deserve. Thank you for giving me the time to present the Air Force Wellness Center initiative. Pending any questions you have, this concludes my briefing.
Jen, thank you so much. And before we kick it to the panel, everybody, their survey will be coming out, and please fill that out. Panel, back to you.
Chief Cox, amazing job. Amazing job. I really, really appreciate that you love, or that you use the prevention portion of this as a proactive step in taking care of our humans. Thanks for that. My first question is, if we have people that are at the Hawk that don't currently have bachelor's degrees to work in an AFWC, what do we do with them?
So that's a little bit of a rough situation because I think the model depends on trained professionals who have bachelor's degrees in the health sciences. That I think that knowledge and skill is very important. However, our civilian population is very important to us. So I could see where we might have an incentive program so that the people who are already in the existing Hawk could train up and we could provide a program to assist with funding so they could get their bachelor's degree. So we wouldn't actually lose anyone.
So Jen.
Yes, ma'am.
We're about to spend more time talking together because we're already trying to roll that model out. And so I would love to connect with you because, you know, you probably have a little bit more data than we do, which will be helpful to us as we roll this out. In fact, it was last week when I told my team, like, I need to get out to the AFWC at Fort Belvoir because I didn't realize that there was one. The closest I can kind of equate that to in the Air Force is at Whiteman Air Force Base. We have a thing called the Life Center. I don't know if anybody has been to the Life Center at Whiteman, but I'm a big fan. And so when you walk into the Life Center, which is different than the Welcome Center, but when you walk into the Life Center, there is no stigma. People don't know if you're, and it's pretty cozy, it's a building, but people don't know if you're going to see a chaplain, a mental health provider, a human performance type person. The one thing that I think it doesn't incorporate, and I'll have to confirm, which is why I want to get out to the AFRC, is more of that exercise physiologist, human performance type person that I think is really important. Because to your point, what we need in our service is a more holistic look. Like, again, how do you take care of wellness and health? You get way left of it. And you provide a place that, and it gets back after my kind of discussion point yesterday on the CAF pillars, you provide a holistic preventative place where people can get whole physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually. I don't think we're too far off from being able to get to that model that you're talking about. And we just have to start to present it. So I've wrote myself a note to get out there sooner than later, and I'm probably going to take SAFMR as well.
That's wonderful, ma'am. I just want to mention that you have an open invitation from the director and as well as SIMSIF. So
Absolutely. Okay, very good. Let's connect and let's put that on the schedule to go do that. The reason why I want to bring SAFMR, right, is kind of he's charged with people. And he went out to Whiteman, I think it was a week ago, because I told him, like, I need you to go out and see the Life Center, but I now want to be able to compare. And then again, we provide this model to our installations. Sir, I'm curious your thoughts because you've spent a lot of time in this too.
Yeah, I think great work, Chief. And to your point too, Chief, the well-being is about three things: general life satisfaction, which can be about your physical as well as your mental health, right? And we know that physical health can drive mental health issues. So I think that you've kind of hit on that piece of it. There's the sense of purpose, right, that people have with the mission they're involved with. And then there's emotional stability, those three things. Emotional stability, I'm really kind of curious about that when you talk about mental health and individuals going here, that it sounds like that we would need more mental health providers. If they're in that setting, is it a clinical setting? Is it a place where they're taking notes? So, that contributes to stigma for some folks, right? If I feel like I'm going to go in there and I could get disqualified from my career field or something like that. So when they go in and they see somebody and there's a mental health sort of interaction, how do you deal with that?
So I think it's very interesting. I can speak from my own experience because I've gone through pretty much every test they have except for the VOT max test. And while they're taking notes, it's basically to help you improve yourself. There isn't any, there aren't any reports back to medical about, if you made your weight or those kinds of things. It's all about self-improvement. So it is a safe space where people can feel like, okay, I really need to work on this, but I don't have to worry about the repercussions of me going to this place. They're here to support me and to support my family. And that's as far as it goes. They do connect people with resources if they need them. So if they need more care than they're able to provide, then they have that direct connection to those resources to take care of people.
All right, Jen, thanks. We're going to send you over to GC.
Thank you.
Oh, we're back for some crowdsourcing time as the panel discusses. Brian, you presented a question. Do you want to ask it directly? Or you want me to read it?
No, I got it.
All right, perfect.
Good morning, Chief.
Morning.
Yeah, I was just curious how it would be targeted to the people who need it most, because those are going to be people that are shy, hesitant to talk to anyone about anything.
Right. Actually, we use it in our unit a great deal because of our job and our need to present the best public appearance we can. So the great thing about this model is that it really focuses down on the at-risk population first. But again, it's not a punitive kind of situation. So when I talked to the director of the health center, she mentioned that, sometimes she gets people who come in who are asked to or told to by command, but they're so positive about how they help people and they realize that, they're actually there to help them, that she said most people leave there feeling very positive about the experience and feeling like, they're supported in the way they need. So targeting that at-risk population is a primary goal of these centers, and that's what they're designed for.
So a lot of it would actually come from like peer recommendation from
It
their
could.
positive experience with that.
Honestly, it's been our squadron, it's been word of mouth. Hey, I went to this place. It was awesome. You should try to check it out. And then it just spread like wildfire. And that's how we ended up building our connection with the Armed Forces Wellness Center. And since
Nice.
we're Air Force and not on their base, they're just helping us out, in the time that they have when they don't have to see their own clients from their own base. They've been really helpful.
Nice. Excellent. Great
Thank
to hear.
you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Jules, you want to say it loud and proud?
Loud and proud. Good morning.
Yeah.
Chief, I absolutely love this idea and my heart is so very happy right now. For many years, I've had this 5-year plan of changing the Air Force mental health program. I came from mental health. I worked family advocacy. I'm now the CSC at my installation and absolutely love integrative wellness. We toured our stress relief clinic at our local university and then started implementing some of their concepts across the installation. Unfortunately, we ran into resourcing challenges, and one of the biggest resourcing challenges was space allocation to do what we wanted to do. I could give you all the grand, bold ideas. Actually, I don't need to because you just put them out in your presentation. But I absolutely love what you are doing. I hope, as I know Chief said that she's already working down this process. I hope it comes with mandates for that space allocation. The other piece that we came into challenge with is having the having somebody man that area. Obviously, we were looking at it as the space, and then we wanted manning so we could get vitals at the beginning, vitals at the end to really assess how it helped their stress management at that time and providing some real-time feedback. We also have the Lumina Mind Gym. I sent you a couple links and private
Wonderful.
chat. I would love to chat with you again, I'm so happy that Chief is already going down this path. So thank you so much for bringing this to Fortify the Force.
Thanks. I wanted to mention a couple things that you talked about. The footprint. The Army has an action plan already established to talk about the footprint. So it's actually very minimal for a medium-sized wellness center to stand up. We know it's going to take some cost, but we're kind of ahead of the game, I think, because we do have existing Hawks or existing other kind of establishments that could morph into this wellness center with not as much effort as starting them from scratch, which is really amazing. I did want to mention that there's a mental health, care group in FIT, and I'm heading an initiative with that. And so please volunteer and join and take part in that initiative, because I'd love to hear your ideas on how to make the mental health care system better. That's my next pitch in a couple minutes.
Perfect. And then one last question. Do you see this falling under medical or somewhere else?
It should be a little bit separate. Yes. It's its own line of effort.
Okay.
All right, hey, everybody, I can see the countdown clock. So I saw another hand. Christine, I'm going to ask you to send a private chat to Jen so that you two can connect. Jen, Christine has something I know she wants to share. Second, will you drop a link so that we can join what you just invited to? Over.
Yeah, I'll do that after this is over. Thank you.
Perfect, J-Dub. All right, back to the panel. That was awesome. Great crosstalk.
Ma'am or sir? Cross direct. Anything.
Well, I mean, I love the idea because I do think that the total fitness for an individual includes the physical as well as the mental health, the emotional, spiritual, all of that. And anywhere where you can kind of connect those dots where people don't necessarily see it themselves, but the system can really address it. I think it's really important.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, you had me at, you lost 11 pounds. So I was about to go there, like, you know, after this meeting, like to go figure out how I can lose 11 pounds real quick. So, but honestly, Jen, I'm super excited. So you know, when we're done, like, I'd love for you to connect with my team because I want us to reach out to the director, let them know we'll be there in the next 2 weeks, if possible. And I do want to bring SAFMR because I think it's important that some of the key stakeholders are there so that we can help accelerate this. I think you and your team of folks who've already, again, engaged with the Army and or OSD can help us just accelerate what we know is right faster because you've done some of the homework behind it.
Right. And I did want, oh, sorry.
I also don't think it's going to be that tough because we have similar like models, even within our special warfare arena, right? Like this isn't anything new. You know, they do human performance and they know that if you're physically a better person, you know, physically, then it's going to just offshoot into all areas of your life. And so I think that we can incorporate this pretty soon. We just need to present this stuff appropriately, and then have it as a go-do.
Yes, ma'am. I was going to mention that the great thing about this plan is the Army already has an action plan already built. So, and one of the great things about where we're at is that with the existence of some Hawks and some other programs, I know like Colorado has a bod pod and really has stepped up their game. We're halfway there, you know, just with a footprint and just changing some of our resources around and our staffing. You know, this could be something that we could see in a few test bases quickly and then spreading to the entire force. But I really think it gets after what your intent is with the holistic health model and taking care of airmen, but having airmen take care of themselves and taking care of each other first before needing those resources like medical and mental health.
Yeah, I think it's great. I will tell you, I avoid the bod pod. Every time they try to get me to go in one, I'm like, no, we're good.
Is this inclusive?
We don't do
for-
bod pods on
for
trips.
family members? Is this like, are family members allowed to use?
Family members are absolutely welcome, and they encourage family members to go with their active duty counterparts because health is a family effort. If you're not on the same page, it just does not work.
Yeah, I love that. To include total force, right?
Absolutely.
One of my big pushes is we've got to be able to take care of our guard and our reservists in the same way. And oh, by the way, not just when they're on status. So we've got to make sure that those policies are squared up.
Yeah, that's really important, that last piece, Chief. You know, the guard and reserve, well, you know, a lot of guardsmen live in disparate communities away from that installation, and those communities have their own risk factors and protective factors. And so anytime you can get them together in that community that is the Air Force community, family, I think is so important.
Hey, Jen, just one additional thought. I think that the Armed Forces Wellness Centers, I could really see them being the heartbeat of any base, right? Like the pulse, like anybody who goes to that base, they know you got to get by that Armed Forces Wellness Center because that's where everything's thriving and folks are being taken care of and they're coming out of there even better. So I could really see that being the heartbeat of any base that you go to. We can get this thing up and running.
I see.
Visualizing at Peterson right now. We've got a BX, an old BX that's, yeah.
Great job. Great job, Jen.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Money.
GC, over to you, sir.
Perfect. Jen, we will see Jen again later. So no worries there. Everybody, I present to you now, we got Tyler English coming up. His initiative is called Break This Stigma. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Excellent. I am an American airman. I'm a warrior. I've answered my nation's call, and there's nothing that I wouldn't do for my country, except for one thing. You see, I had a deployment a while ago, and when I got back, things were different. I don't know what changed, but it did. My wife, she left. After a year-long custody battle, she ended up taking the kids too. It's all right, I had my friends, but then came COVID, and my entire social network fell out from underneath me as well. The one thing that I refuse to do is reach out for help. If my airman, my wingman, my leadership sees me walking through the halls of mental health, what are they going to think of me? They're not going to trust me to be a competent leader, a competent wingman, competent follower. They're going to take away my security clearance, and I know that I'm going to end up losing my job. But one thing that I will not do for my country is arguably the most important thing that I can do. And it doesn't matter as many briefings as I get, all the down days, all the statistics, all the data, it doesn't matter, because I cannot get past that stigma. This is a problem across our force. And I've seen the podcast. Chief Bass, you mentioned yourself that the hardest part about your job is saying goodbye to an airman. And we see this play out time and time and time again. But how do we get past that stigma? Well, 5 years ago, I pioneered an idea with some of my fellow airmen called the Mustache Dash that doesn't address the side effects of the stigma, but the stigma itself. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. The first thing we're going to talk about, though, is the actual problem. So it's no surprise that the problem is mental health, and mental health not being seen as many other aspects of health actually are. The truth is 1 in 5 adults live with a mental illness. This is indiscriminate. It doesn't matter what race, gender, age, 1 in 5. And that number is not reflected in our forces as far as people going for help. The Air Force has exceeded 100 suicides in the last 2 of the 3 years. By comparison, I mean, COVID has taken 10 lives of people on active service, 10 since the beginning of the pandemic, as opposed to more than that in a single month of suicides. Now, what that's conveying to the force is what's actually important. And if it is decreasing the stigma, I mean, we shut down the military for COVID, but we get, maybe a down day. It's not addressing the actual problem. So the problem is the fact that mental health is invisible and people do not believe in what they cannot see. If I go to my leadership and say, hey guys, I need to take the day off, I broke my arm, well, I'll probably get the day off. They can see that. But if I go to my leadership and say, hey, I'm suffering with anxiety, I know the conversations are going to follow are not going to have a positive connotation. This culturally and self-imposed silence not only hurts the individual, but the chain of command, the unit, as well as the mission. So breaking down the problem, how might we reduce the impact of mental health on the mission? How might we reduce the stigma of reaching out for help? How might we educate the individual, the network, and the community? Enter the Mustache Dash, where we can accomplish all 3 in one fell swoop. Now, the Mustache Dash is an event to raise awareness for mental health and destigmatize the act of asking for help. It's built into Mustache March, which has always been more or less a good-natured protest honoring the legacy of Robin Olds, where every March, airmen that can grow facial hair try to, myself included. And we were sitting around one day and we said, hey, we're all growing these mustaches, but what's the actual value behind it? So we ascribe meaning to it. Because like mental health is something you can't see, a really terrible mustache is something that you can. At which point, that's a visual representation of the stigma that exists. So the participants show up to this event after growing their mustache for the entirety of the month, and then they run 4 laps around the track. It doesn't really matter the distance, it's inconsequential, but we did it to symbolize the 4 fitness domains of comprehensive airman fitness, that last one being mental. And by the end of that last lap, everyone who finishes or crosses the finish line either shaves their mustache that they've been growing, or they rip off the mustache that was given to them, people that didn't grow facial hair, women, children, it doesn't matter. It's been cool to see the turnout of these events and how many people actually participate in the shaving of the stigma to ask for help. At this point in time, there's a keynote speaker, typically someone who's very prominent, a leader, a commander, something of those lines, who talks about mental health in a way that shows that without mental health, they wouldn't be where they're at in their career. Not just a Facebook post saying, I got kicked out of the military because I asked for help, which is often what we see. And then finally, around this entire event, we brought out all the base supporting agencies, everybody that's there to help destigmatize the act, because it's far less threatening to walk up to a booth where everybody's there participating than it is to actually go to mental health. And it's getting people the resources and it's at their fingertips. And this expands far more than just that single month. It's an entire year-long process where people are thinking about it and get prepared for it. And it's shown to be very promising just at Fairchild alone. As far as the execution between now and next March, the infrastructure already exists. We have human capital, a robust volunteer network of people that are passionate about helping wingman. And we also have the infrastructure, because if you can do a PT test at your base, then you can run the Mustache Dash. In summary, if one life is saved across the Department of the Air Force, this low-cost attempt to change a stigma is well worth the price of your support. That's the Mustache Dash.
Tyler, thank you. Panel.
Hey, man, great job.
Thank you.
So one thing that I want to say, I appreciate your line that it is difficult to believe what we cannot see, and that you tie that in to basically the removal of a mustache, whether, you know, it's glued on or you're shaving it. I really appreciate that. Good job.
I'm still a little mesmerized. Like, I mean, phenomenal presentation, amazing opening. And then you surprised me, right? Like I was just, you know, listening that I didn't expect us to roll into mustaches. So it was, you know, and I appreciate you kind of closing the loop too, because as a female, I felt a little bit disconnected initially, like, okay, well, I think this is cool, right, for the guys. But so I appreciated hearing you tie that in on here's how other people are. So I just might offer, right, like, I actually think it's a phenomenal idea. I wish I was at Fairchild when you guys had it so that I could help highlight the goodness. We'll have to figure out how we make sure that, again, all people kind of feel connected to this really worthy way of being able to highlight that stigma, and then not just make it a thing, right? You know, and I keyed in on, like, how do we just make it not a thing for March? How do we make it, how do we really have kind of the, you know, the sense of responsibility throughout the year and not just in March, is something I might offer.
You know, we did sexual assault prevention was April, and we did hashtag not just April. The point was to constantly remind you that what else are you doing outside of that month? I think that is really important, that that's connected. Is there, did you get any feedback just in terms of inclusiveness? I know you added the run the laps, which is important that, you know, everyone can be included in that. Have you gotten any feedback about inclusiveness when it comes to a mustache?
Yes, so that was a big hurdle that we had to overcome, because I mean, in my career field, it's very male dominant, and at the start of this, the genesis was very much so geared towards, you know, the masculinity behind not reaching out for help, and this faux idea that, you know, to be a tough guy, you can't reach out for help, and you know, to the tune of the fact that 90% of people who commit suicide are male. We didn't want to just double down on it being a guy's event. So that's where the stick on mustaches came. And early on, the first year that we ran this, probably the biggest supporter of the Mustache Dash was a female captain from mental health who championed this idea, made sure that it was incredibly inclusive. She got up, she's actually a keynote speaker, and she talked about maybe changing it around a little bit and females stop shaving their armpits for the month of March, which got a couple chuckles. But yeah, just an amazing human being who was able to really connect the dots between what we're trying to say and making sure that it spread an incredibly large net.
So what's the point of the 4 laps? Why 4?
So the 4 pillars of comprehensive airman fitness, while we're doing this event, and I've heard rumor that it's going to 5. which, it's fine. Another lap is another lap. But the idea is while they're out there, we have a PA system set up and we're announcing every time that whoever's in the lead or whatever crosses the start line, we announce that this lap is in memory, not necessarily memory, but dedicated to that pillar of comprehensive airman fitness.
So it seems like the predominance of it is awareness. But there's also the booth there. Is that the place where you then connect it beyond awareness that, the outcome is to reduce stigma. So the awareness is that there is stigma, and then is the booth, the concept is then to do more to do the reduction of it?
Yes, sir. We brought all the supporting agencies out that would ever touch stigma or mental health, family advocacy, all those types of groups. And they had their booth set up, and they were offering prizes. They were playing their own little music. They had their own little games, and it was encouraging people to actually go to those booths and make those connections. If anything, just to break down those walls and barriers of, I know a person who works at this section who could potentially speak truth into my life or my family or my mental health.
So, sir, I'm looking at you. You have a very nice mustache. Would you want to shave your mustache at the end of the mustache march?
Oh, I would have done it for it,
Yeah.
for sure. I would have done it.
Most people would, I would imagine, but some may not. So that would be another,
Yeah,
we want
for
them
sure.
included too, but.
Just put it on a stick on and then rip it
And
off.
then take it off if it sticks on the.
Yeah.
All right, GC, over to you, sir.
Okay, let's break away, team. All right, let's get some real talk, some real feedback for Tyler here. Let's provide him something from the crowdsource, if you will. What do we got for him? Liz, I see you there. You thought about the whole armpit shaving thing, maybe. That caught me off guard.
I'll jump in right here, GC.
Perfect.
Tyler, first of all, your introduction made me cry and gave me goosebumps. And I say that because because you're right. Every official event that we go to, we say the Airman's Creed, and we talk about what we would do for our country. And you're right. The one thing that most people won't do is seek help when they need it because of the stigma that is there and the repercussions and the retribution that they face after doing it. I love the mustache march. Let me rephrase. I don't like mustache march. It grosses me out. And unfortunately, I work with a bunch of men that like to grow caterpillars on their lips for the duration of March. So I look forward to the end of March and having them shave it off. But the concept I love. I love the 4 pillars, thus the 4 laps, the removal or shaving of it to shave away the stigma. I guess my one question, and I think someone on the panel actually said the same thing. The question that I had was, how do we expand it? Because I think that the knowledge that you want to share and the connections that you want to make and the resources you want folks to have, we need it more than just in March. So how do you see that progressing to be more than just March 31st or whatnot? And again, I love your concept. I want to see it happen. I just want to know how we do more.
Absolutely. No, that's a great question. Being able to get more out of it. The evidence that I have is very much so limited to my bias and the sphere that I've been operating in. And I can tell you since the Mustache Dash started 5 years ago, we've had 2 airmen who have worked under me, who actually worked on the Mustache Dash, who reached out for help and got the help that they need. Took a couple months off the job in order to get the help. And later when touching base back with them, like, hey, how you doing? The feedback that we received wasn't like, oh man, I'm so glad I did that. They said that was actually super difficult, but is because of the contacts they made at the Mustache Dash. So this one month where it's I hate to use the pun that it's in your face because it's on your face, but what's taking place is so much more than just what that event culminates in a run. It's a lifestyle. It's breaking down those stigmas in a systematic way. We're addressing the problem from a different frame, as opposed to just saying, hey, there's suicides, we need to stop this. Like, what's stopping people from getting the help for the suicides? And I don't know if that specifically addresses your question, because I'd like to do a mustache dash every month, but I think that's overreaching. And I think the force is pretty burnt out as is on the briefings, the constant reminders that suicide is an issue. And I'd really like to see it kind of change to the fact where it is a conversation piece and it's a very non-threatening environment.
I see Craig has his hand up, and I'm sorry, JW, I just want to chime in to Tyler. I think you're spot on. I think that we are tired of hearing that we have a problem. And I think we're tired of PowerPoint presentations. And so that's part of why I love this, because it is a completely different way to get the resources out there to our folks. So thank you.
Thank you.
Jules, go ahead. We got 34 minutes or 34 seconds.
I know everybody wants to scale this to multiple months, but I also want to send the message out there that we also have Suicide Prevention Month and we have Mental Health Awareness Month. So while this appears to just be in March, if we connect it to everything else we're already doing, it is already scalable. I did that in less than 15 seconds.
Fantastic.
Perfect, Jules. Perfect, Jules. Hey, Craig, if we can't answer the question, if you want to push it out, man, you can always hit it via chat.
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, we're going to transition to one back to the.
So just one thing that I noticed on the poll from the audience, that this scored a little lower on civilian families, vets, and retirees, like as far as effect goes. But I know when you and I have had some online conversation just between the two of us, one of the things that you brought up was that you wanted your keynote speakers to be people like retirees and vets, and that you wanted to include, spouses and family members in this thing. Can you just explain a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So the event was tailored to ensure that families are a part of it. I think spouses are an incredibly important part of mental health, given the fact that most of the suicides, when they cite a reason, often go towards family life issues. So by being able to have a spouse that participates in this run with the family member, and my kids did it, my wife did it, and they also got the exposure to all the on-base resources that if I was ever too stubborn to reach out for help, that my wife or my children say, hey, remember Miss Dawn Altemeyer who ran this booth? She was really nice. She gave us these, cool sunglasses. You need to talk to her.
Tyler, I love the initiative. I love the, I love everything about it. And what is most cool about this is, all this is doing is bringing community together, to your point, and that is so important to people, whether it is your loved one, kiddos, and the community of being able to see and normalize the people who, are running our support agencies and that are available to our folks. And so that's all you're doing. Like we're doing it in the name of a run, but I also love the symbolism of just shaving something off, right? Because then it means something to you. And I might offer that, or pulling something off, whatever it is, but it really causes people to pause for the everyday when they're shaving their mustache, like to really kind of bring back into, what's etched in their memory as far as that stigma that you're getting after. And I think that this is like easy. Like I say that this is something that we amplify and get widespread everywhere. And it's just, it's fun, but it's community and it's connectedness.
I couldn't agree more, Chief. I think so much of what you talked about was awareness, but I think if you're thinking about how you weave in providers, whether it's physical health or mental health providers, into the experience with them, that builds relationships, and those relationships can help lower stigma. We have flight surgeons will go out with units and fly to stay current on that environment that they're treating people for, but it also built relationships when you went out on a trip with that provider in a way that didn't have a clipboard there and weren't taking notes in their computer, that you felt that, you know, this is going to have a negative effect on my career or whatever the stigma that you might bring into that experience. I really think weaving in those providers in that sort of informal environment it could be really powerful.
So if I can add one more thing, you know, any leader on any installation or any organization would never say like no to stuff like this, right? Like we're all, you know, as leaders, we're often, you know, occupied with all the things that are happening in life. And so I'll tell you, as a prior command chief at a wing, right? Like I would have loved for somebody, one of the airmen in the wing, to come up to me and say, or family members say, hey, we'd love to do this. And oh, by the way, here's how it benefits the wing. And all we need is your support and your push to make sure that the support agencies are out there. Like the answer is going to be yes. And so, you know, getting that installation level support, I think, is key, but it also builds up whoever our airmen and guardians or family members are that desire to do something like this from the grassroots level. It's going to build that communication that they need to really start having with the leadership teams on the installation to help, again, we're teaching behavior on how to gain organizational support.
Yeah, Tyler, I think this is great. And one thing you're talking about doing is having a positive impact on that local culture. One thing I would say is that I can see after the new year, everybody getting excited about March and doing this. But what I can also see is at the conclusion of that event, folks are going to be like, what's next? You know, they may not want to wait another year. Have you put any thought into, like, throughout the year, having like some sub or mini events that folks can have something else to look forward to instead of having to wait an entire year? Because, you know, folks out there, they're hurting, they're recovering. And so this is something that they're going to want to maybe do a little bit more frequently. Have you put any thought into that?
Negative, but that is a phenomenal idea. And I think as far as being able to incorporate that into just a typical ops tempo, it's not going to be, you know, some giant event like the Mustache Dash that spans a month, but just a little something here or there to keep it fresh in people's minds. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, panel, so much. Let's take 5 minutes and we'll provide that feedback here. Let's take a quick 5 minutes and we'll come back for Project Enigma. Hoorah.
GC, I think we need a family photo. Hey, everyone, get back in the middle there. Get back in the middle there.
I know it's what it looks like.
Yep. All right, we're gonna do a strike. If you can hear me, we are gonna do a family photo with everybody in it. Do they have their volume down?
I think so, maybe.
Yeah. We're just gonna have them do it again. All right.
Yeah.
You got time. Everyone, turn your cameras on. We're gonna do a family photo.
Family
Fit team
photo.
in the room. Can you hear my voice okay? Give me a thumbs up, hand in the air, a wave, hello. We're gonna get you to that same thing. Need you to come closer to the camera because I've got everybody with their videos on. We're gonna do a family photo. So Fit team in the room, please stand up. Everybody in Zoom, please turn your cameras on. All right, here we go. Come a little closer, Fit team. I need you closer to the camera.
There we go. Come on.
Okay, everybody. All right, if you want to be in this photo, I need your cameras on. Oh, it's fantastic. I'm gonna count down from now. They're turning their cameras on. Everybody take 2 deep breaths in. All right, I'm gonna count down from 3. I'm gonna count down from 3, 2, 1. I got you. Over to you.
That is so good. That is so difficult to do that. That's awesome, J-Dub. Like a master you are in Zoom. I love it, sir. So everybody, without further ado, let me present Brett Kaiser. He has what we call Project Enigma. Cap is excited. We're all excited. Design Warfare grad, 1 of 200, ready to go. Let's get it, sir. Over to you.
Hi, good morning, teammates. I'm Master Sergeant Brett Kaiser from the 730th Air Mobility Squadron at Yokota Air Base, Japan. And today I'm pitching Project Enigma, cracking the code on communication skills, trust, and all the soft skills we need to flourish. So with every story and initiative comes with a backstory. Every year we have an annual Port Dog Memorial Run, and we even get t-shirts made that memorize the lost Port Dogs from the previous year. But I have a problem with something. We always have a name, it seems, on the shirt where there's a member that we lost due to suicide. And in late 2020, we lost Master Sergeant Chris Messner, and it really sent shockwaves around the career field. And this is my call to action, that we keep looking up to the Air Force to solve this problem for us when we're all empowered to do it ourselves. Because the last thing I want to see is this badge circulating social media that we lost another brother or sister to suicide. So luckily I got my opportunity by attending Design Warfare. I attended a 1-month cohort at the Air Force Rapid Sustainment Office in Dayton, Ohio, where we interviewed 1,000 airmen and guardians between multiple teams and cohorts, and the results were surprising. Airmen and guardians feel disconnected from their subordinates, peers, supervisors due to a lack of communication skills and trust. And when talking to them, they said that PME didn't teach them the soft skills they needed to build strong relationship for members to leverage in a time of crisis. Some of the impact of this is suffering in silence, relationship issues. A lot of these airmen we talked to said they've already made up their mind that they're going to depart from service for what they had to endure. And those who can't wait sometimes turn to suicide. And even in my darkest times, it's my family, my friends, and my support network from the people I trust at work that got me through it. So I know that this is a real problem. We're able to categorize their data and put it into these 8 different categories. You look at number 7, diversity, airmen from all walks of life. A lot of them express that they don't have the skills to connect with someone they don't think that they have anything in common with. And so even though they want to, they just don't know how. So our team, so we have now retired Senior Master Sergeant Dr. Eric Cass, who headed this up, and turned over the reins to myself and Master Sergeant Select Andrew Caprio. And our team solicited a SBIR Phase 3 contract to Mr. Mark Evans from Bubo Learning Design, LLC. He's a CEO and founder with 20 years of experience as a private industry leader, but he also brought on Air Force veterans to create this workshop to ensure that all the material is relevant and all the desired learning outcomes are achieved. Project Enigma is a 40-hour communication workshop, and it teaches these soft skills: emotional intelligence, building trust. There's scenarios for students to practice, coaching, feedback, listening to learn instead of listening to respond, and crucial conversations. This is just a little snippet from the workshop about talking about crucial conversations. Goes by the steps, breaks it down, but really